Okay, I've been having some mic issues for the past few videos, and I'm not really sure what the problem is, because there's some sort of like static noise going on, and I'm really trying to get this to work. I'm using the DPA 6060 lav mic, and right now what I've been doing is, or when the noise has been the worst, has been when I've had my like flannel shirt on, I think, and then just put it through like one of the shirt buttons. I don't know why that was a problem, but maybe it was noise from the actual fabric. Now what I've done is I've like taped the mic. So this is gonna make a lot of noise, I just realized. But yeah, the mic is there now, taped to the actual shirt. And the idea being that instead of it being taped to my skin and then the shirt rubbing over it, it's supposed to be that my skin won't make as much noise as the shirt fabric. But I'm not sure. What I've been doing also is sometimes taping it to my skin right up here, but that doesn't produce the same kind of sound from the voice. Like the voice gets sort of, it's not as crisp or clear. It's a little bit more muffled, I feel like, when it's there. So ideally I want to have it somewhere around this area, but then I have the problem of the shirt making noise. I could tape it on the outside, but I like the idea of it not showing as well, so that you don't actually have to see the microphone. Which I don't know if that's super important, but I just like not showing it. Today's actually a Saturday, but I'm going skiing, so I need to work on the app so that I actually get a video out in the week that I'm skiing. So that's why we're making videos today. And so what are we going to do? Let's have a look. In the previous video, we were working on creating a function in the database. But what we need to do now, or on the backend side, I mean, but what I realized is that we need to have events in the database as well, so that we can then sort the different calls or attach the calls to events. So each user will be signed up to an event, and then for each event, a user will have a call list of people that they're gonna talk to. So that's going to be the next thing, just creating a model in the database for a call, essentially. Okay, I'm just gonna go check something because there's like a beeping noise and I'm not sure if it's outside or if it's in my apartment. Okay, so it turns out it was in my apartment, and it was um, it was a fridge or freezer. I'd apparently not closed the door, which I don't know. I don't know when I did that last. I don't think I've almost like ever done that. So I don't know what happened, but for some reason I didn't close the door today. Um, Okay, so I was going back and forth trying to think of like how do we do this, because essentially each user can sign up to an event, and at that event the user will be assigned to a call list that is unique to the user, and we want to keep track of this. So we want to first of all know like which events has this user attended in the past. I don't know exactly what we're going to use that for, but I think that's something that would make sense to kind of keep track of. And we want to have events because we want a setup where a user can sign up to an event, and we need to be able to track like, okay, which event has this user signed up to, so we can then filter out users based on an event. So let's say that the users have signed up to the Stockholm event, then when that event actually starts, we have to be able to or to know which users to actually add to call lists and to set up for calls on in that place. Actually, now that I think of it, I just realized something. But I'm just gonna write that down. Keep track of. Okay, so it failed. All right. So the idea is a user signs up to an event, and we have to have an event where we know the date of the event and the location of the event, so that we can then filter out the users that have signed up to the event. But we also have to have some sort of connection then to the event. So each call list then is going to be connected to an event, so that we know that, okay, user A has these call lists in the past, and they belong to these events. Wait, I'm trying to understand what I'm even explaining. There's so many things happening at once. The deployment failed, and I realized another thing. I realized that we need to, for an event, we need to continue to keep track of the fact that we have a, what is that called? Like divisible by 2. Like the number of people in the event has to be divisible by 2. So if the last person to sign up was a man, then we have to put the next man in line into like a wait list until a woman signs up. And then we have to keep going like that to make sure that we have an even number of women to men. And we also have to make sure that we have an even number of people, so that each person has someone to talk to all the time, so that we don't have I don't know how to do that in the best way, because I'm a bit like, I think there might be a chance that that's actually something we need to think about right now. Because somewhere in the app or somewhere in this whole ecosystem, we're going to have to keep track of how many users have signed up and how many are of each gender. And the question is like, where is going to be the best way to keep track of that? It's probably going to be in the event model. Because then the event model can have a list of all the users that are going to attend the event. Okay, this is so complex, I think. Maybe I'm making it more complex than it needs to be. Sometimes I think it's difficult to know like what is the minimum viable product versus and what are problems that I don't really need to be worried about right now, because I can come up with all kinds of problems all the time, but then the question is, at some point you want to actually launch something, and typically I think the idea is to launch something and then iterate on the thing that you launched to make it better. So you want to try to scale it down as much as possible so that you just have like, this is the core idea. And so, because what I'm thinking now is like, well, if we have an event model in the database, then maybe we have to have a queue model as well, where when people want to sign up to the event, but there are too many of their gender, then the user has to get put into like a queue system of some kind, where we keep track of like, these are the people in line for the event, which is a really strange thing, because typically if you'd have an event, you wouldn't really need to think about these things, because you just have like, it doesn't matter if there's 50 men and 1 woman that signs up. But in this specific scenario, when there are going to be live phone calls between these users, and there's going to be a restricted amount of time that we're going to have these phone calls, we can't have 50 men and 1 woman, because then the 50 or 49 men are just going to be sitting by their phone waiting for 49 other guys to finish talking to this one person. So we need some sort of queue system to make sure that when the event actually happens, we have an even number of people, an even number of genders. Also, this is not going to be like it's not like anti any sort of sexual orientation. I'm just thinking of like the base functionality now, which is going to be men and women. And then we're going to have all the other things as well, of course, obviously. But in that case, the problem is so much easier. If it's just like men dating men or men talking to men, then this problem is completely gone. This problem only exists if it's men talking to women. Like if it's 2 different genders, this is the only case when this problem exists. So that's why it's really important to try to figure this out, because that is going to be a use case. So in that case, we have to have some sort of wait list so that we make sure that for every man that signs up to this particular event, there has to be a woman that signs up to that particular event. And so the men will have to wait for the women to sign up so that they can be joined to someone. But the question is, how do you keep track of that and how do you do that? So I think we have to have a queue model, because it could also be a queue model for women. Like there might be more women that sign up than men. Unlikely, but it could be. And so we have to have a queue system, and we have to keep track of that queue somehow. So, and the question is like, there's so many questions in my head right now. Like, what's the easiest way to keep track of that? Is it like, do we have an event model that has a list of all the users that are signed up? And then we have just a variable in the event model that's just a string that is either says male or female, or men or man or woman, something like that. And each time a man signs up, that string will just update that model in the database or that table to say woman instead, so that when a man signs up, that string becomes a woman, and then we check what does it say when people sign up. Like, wait, there's so many things. Okay. So when people sign up for an event, we check the event to say, what does that string say? What was the last person that signed up? That the last person was a man. That means that we need a woman. So if the person that now signs up is a man, then they get put in the queue. If the person that signs up now is a woman, then it gets added to the event and the text in the event changes to woman or man. And we keep doing that. It could be a Boolean as well. Like it could be like add woman is true or false. And if it's false, then we can add a man, that sort of thing. Add woman equals false. So this might be easier to understand if you can actually see it, but if the last person that we added was a woman, then this will be set to false, which we can then always check. So we know that the last person that was added was a woman, which means that we shouldn't add a woman. So we could call this should add woman is false, which means that we should add a man. And then once we've added a man, this changes to true. So then should add a woman is equal to true, which means that we add a woman. I don't know if this makes any sense. It feels like this is quite complex just to explain in words what I'm thinking. But this might be a good idea to have something like this for the event. But then we also need a queue system. So we have to have some sort of model that's called queue. How do you spell queue? Queue, something like that, which has the event ID. So what is this queue actually for? Then it has a list of users, and then is male queue false. Okay, this might be what we want for this. So we have a queue here for the specific event. Then we have a list of users, and then we have a Boolean value that just says if this is a male or female queue. So if it's a female queue, then this will be false, and if it's a male queue, it will be true. Types not match. Okay, should add man. And then we'll have a Q ID. Okay, so we have now added queue to the database and event to the database. Like this list of tables is adding up pretty quickly. But this should be what we need. Because now we can create an event, we can create a queue. So now the user flow is going to be something like this. The user will see like almost like an ad, I think, not really, but like some sort of promotion for this event, which is going to be like speed dating Tuesday, something like that, let's say. And then they can sign up to that event, decide which location do I want, and select the location that they want. And then they will get added to either to the event or to a queue for the event. And I think we'll notify the users of this. I don't know if this is a good idea or a bad idea. Like there's queues for restaurants, nightclubs, those sort of things to kind of. I really don't like when they create queues to make it look like this is a place that you want to go to. Like I feel like that is very disingenuous, and that's not something that I want to do. But in this case, I feel like it does make sense to have a queue system, and maybe it's a good idea. Like if that is a tactic that actually works, even in places when it's not actually that busy and people don't actually want to go there that much. It's just that they what's that called? When you like manipulate something or you create a false facade of a queue. If it works in those cases when the actual product or the actual nightclub, restaurant, whatever it is, isn't actually good enough to create a real queue, but it still is a tactic that they use, so it seems like it works, then in this case, when there is an actual queue, that it makes sense that there's an actual queue, then maybe we should show the users that, okay, you are signed up, but you are also now in the queue, so you're in a line for this event. Maybe that's a good idea, because maybe that creates some sort of like feeling that this is something that you want to go to. I'm really kind of I feel like I lose the words all the time, but I'm a little bit against those sort of tactics or classic tactics when it comes to marketing or things like that. Because for me personally, I just get very turned off by those sort of things. Like for instance, if you go to a website and as soon as you get into the website, there's a countdown that starts. So like you have 20 hours, and then within these 20 hours, you'll get a like 50% discount on all the products on this site. And then the countdown just starts from 20 hours and starts going down. Even if that's a real countdown, I will almost for sure just close that website down and go somewhere else, because it just turns me off a lot, because I just feel like it's not real. I feel like it's a tactic that they use to try to get me to buy something, to pretend that it's 50% off when it's actually not 50% off. That's the actual price. That's what they want to take for the product. That's how I usually feel. How I usually feel with like discounts in general, unless it's like a discount code maybe that you get somewhere else. If it's a discount code on a website, or like Udemy has that thing where they like, I don't know, it's like 90% off each course. I know it's not 90% off the course. I know the course is $10. I know it's not actually $1,000 or $100 or whatever they try to claim. So that really turns me off. So I really want to avoid those sort of things, while at the same time using the things that do make sense and that seem authentic and real. So I don't want to implement a tactic to get people to sign up for something. Ideally, what I want is the product to be good enough that people want to sign up, so that I don't even have to care about those sort of tactics. I also feel like those sort of tactics, like, they don't work on me, so I don't know who they work on. But I don't typically feel like they work on me. I know there are times when I've been fooled by them, so like it does happen. But on average, I get more frustrated by them, and I trust the products and the companies less when I see something like that. And that's not really what I want here. I want it to be as authentic and as genuine as possible. So then having like a queue system might not be in line with those values, while at the same time, I feel like it could be kind of unfair if you know that there's like 100 guys in line for this event, and someone signs up and you just pretend that they actually got signed up to the event, but they're actually the 100th sign up for that event and they're in line for it. Maybe that's unfair to have them think that they're going to be in the event and then they show up on the day, and on the day you tell them that, like, actually you didn't, there was too many people signed up for this event, or too few girls really would be the case, so you didn't get a spot. I feel like that would be unfair. So I feel like, I don't know, I don't know, because I really don't want to make it feel like you just like, oh really, are you going to put me in a queue for this event? Are you that up yourself that you actually pretend that there's a queue for an online event? Because typically there wouldn't be queues for online events, but in this specific case, that it is possible that there would be a queue. So those are the sort of things that I try to think about. I don't want to accidentally make something that feels disingenuous and feels like I'm trying to fool people into thinking that this is good. I want it to actually be good, and I want people to really want to be there, if that makes sense. So maybe the queue system should be just a back-end side where we might notify the user and say that you're in line for this event, we're waiting for other people to sign up, and if enough people sign up, then you'll get a spot. And maybe if you're open, I also like this. Like, this is what I like the most about companies, when they're like very open and honest, and like at least seem to be just open and honest and not trying to hide things from me as a user. That's what I like. I like the idea of me then, in this case, telling the user, hey, I'm sorry, there's too many guys in line for this event. We're waiting. We're doing our best to get as many girls to sign up to this event as possible. So right now you're in line, but we're doing our best to get an even amount of girls and guys into this event so that the playing field will be kind of even, and just like explain what you're doing. I feel like that's what most people do, the mistakes that most people do. I think that's mistakes that parents do too, and like raising kids, is telling the kid what to do but not why they should do it. But maybe that's me just being naive. Because I always think like, well, if you tell me why I should do it, there's probably a logical and completely reasonable reason why what is happening and why I should be doing what I should be doing. But if you don't tell me that stuff, then I can't empathize for you, I can't understand you, and I will just think that you're strange. So, yeah. But this stuff is sort of hard to keep track of. Sometimes it's easy to get lost when you're building apps and things. You're just like, you come up with an idea of like, oh, well, this would be a really good thing to get users into the app. And then you don't stop to reflect and think about like, well, is that in line with the app that I actually want to build? And this goes with anything, like even videos, making videos, like when you're editing, if you're editing like Mr. Beast, for instance, then is that the type of video that I want to make? Is that the type of audience that I want to generate? Is that, like, there's so many things that go into how you create your product, and how that shapes your customers or audience or users. So yeah, I don't know what I was talking about or why I ended up here, but we need to create a function for signing up to an event that keeps track of how many of the certain gender are signed up to this event. Actually, what I just realized is we probably need to have a sexual orientation as why don't yeah sexual orientation probably should be a part of the event model. Because if it's a straight event, then the whole system becomes complex. If it's a single gendered event, then the whole thing is just way easier because we're always just waiting for one more person to sign up. Because all we need is for the amount of people in the event to be divisible by 2. And if the genders are all going to be the same, then we're always only going to have one person in line for the event at max. Because one person is always going to be, because it's only going to be one person waiting for another one to sign up, and then we're an even number again. And if another one signs up, we're uneven, waiting for another one, which is very easy. Whereas with a straight event, it could end up being just a long queue of guys waiting for one girl to sign up. Okay, so this was a bit of a ramble, but that is what we need to do. So, anarchy have sexual orientation? Is there a better word for this? Okay, we're gonna just use orientation then. Orientation. A dot string. All right, but that's going to be it for what I had time for today. It was a bit of a shorter session, but again, just trying to maintain the philosophy that something is better than nothing. And this was still like 2 hours of work, so, or maybe 1.5 hours, I don't really know. And we did get some really quite good things done and some really useful and productive thinking done as well, which is more valuable than I think sometimes. Because I realize when I sit down and start to think about things, I'm like, well, there's a lot of things that I've forgotten that I need to do. And we also have a pretty clear to-do list here. We did create events in the database, so that's good. And we added event ID to the call list. So now when I get back from skiing, this is what we're going to be dealing with. Right, I really appreciate everyone watching these videos. Like, there's way more people here than I was expecting, and it's been really good for my personal, like, mental health when it comes to work, because I don't know, I don't remember last time I felt like I had this much energy. I just feel energized in every area of my life at this point, or at this moment. I'm excited about things. I haven't been very excited for a few months about things, and I feel that excitement again. I feel excited about making these videos. I'm excited about the fact that this is like day 27 in this series. I've done 27 videos of just coding on this app, which I'm super proud of and happy about. And I'm also like super proud and happy about what I've accomplished so far with the app. Like this, it's actually becoming something now, which even though there's no UI almost built out, there's so many things that we've achieved. Like we can do phone calls in the app. We've created a database. We've added different models to the database. We've added functions on the back end side so we can create algorithms. Like there's so many things that have been achieved right now that I feel like, yeah, I think I'm a bit proud actually, to be honest. I think that's part of what it is. And I just feel like I'm not overworking myself at the same time as I'm like doing more work more consistently than I've done for a long time. And I'm doing work that I really like. Like I love doing this stuff. I love coding and thinking through these problems. It just feels good and exciting, and I feel like it's healthy too. Like I feel like it's good for my brain to be thinking about these problems, and I feel like, yeah, I feel like it's almost like exercise for my brain to do this work. And I have energy for other things too. Like this work doesn't take up all of my time. So I have time to do things outside of work, which um, I've had in the past. It's just that I've always had the feeling of like, I'm not doing enough work when I'm doing the other things. So this schedule, this routine, everything about it, I'm like, I need to write down a daily journal of like, this is what my days look like right now, and this is how I feel, because I need to make sure that I document the routine and how I felt, so that if I ever get off track in the future, I can come back to this and see and be like, okay, that's what you were doing and that's how you felt. Get back to that somehow. Genuinely, I feel like I need to remember what I'm doing right now so that I don't fall off track, or so that in the future I can get back to it if I ever lose it. So yeah, and that's a big part of that, is that there's a lot of people following this channel. We're close to actually being able to monetize it, which is good, because that means that I can actually make some money off of this channel as well, which is very exciting, and it's all thanks to everyone that's watching this. So thank you so much, and I'll see you in a week, but it will be like a day or two for you guys. All right, see you in the next one.